अर्चना हो गया. Good morning, all. I welcome all the participants in the first session of FDP. First of all, I would like to introduce our first speaker for this session, Dr. Mallikarjun Shastri sir. Sir has received his BE in CSE from Karnataka University, Dharwad, and MTech and PhD from VTU, Belgaum. Sir is currently working as a professor in School of C&IT, Reva University. He has around 25 years of experience in teaching and 10 years of experience in research. Sir has published several papers in reputed journals and conferences. His areas of research are mainly parallel computing, wireless sensor networks, and data analytics, etc. Sir, over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I, Dr. Mallikarjun Shastri, PM, Professor in School of Computing and Information Technology, would like to give a webinar on effective online teaching and learning process in today's session. What I will be covering in today's session. The first one is I will be teaching about the meaning of teaching. I will be explaining about what is the meaning of teaching. Then I will be covering what are the objectives and outcomes. Then I will be giving the meaning of teaching process, and also I will explain the key ideas associated with the teaching. Then what are the methods of teaching, then effective teaching strategies, then let us look at qualities of good lecture, and finally the best online teaching practices. The online teaching or offline teaching involves the steps from teaching process, key ideas, methods of teaching, effective teaching strategies, qualities of good lecture, and in spite of all these, I will also be dealing some points which are explicitly related to online teaching in the last topic. Well, what is a teaching? A teaching is a process which is intended for learning by inducing a behavioral change in the taught. What it means? It means after the teacher explains some concept or ideas or some principles, some knowledge, the students will be in a position to understand them. Then they get the confidence that he or she is able to apply that knowledge in real world applications. So he gets a feeling that he has understood the concept and he can apply that concept in the real world to solve any given problem. So you find some behavioral change in the student or the learner. This is called what? Inducing a behavioral change. That means he also gets confidence that confidently he can attend any interviews also, he can get job also. So the teacher job is to induce this kind of behavioral change in the thought after he teaches any concept. And teaching is also an art of communicating a message with impact on audience. The whatever message you communicate with the students or audience, you must have, or the message must have an impact on the audience. It is also an art or profession of teaching. So teaching is not science, teaching is an art. Then what are the objectives? I want to explain the key ideas, then describe the methods of teaching, discuss the methods of teaching, emphasize the effective teaching strategies, and also discuss the best practices that should be used by a teacher. What are the outcomes expected from the learners at the end of the session, or what they should develop within them? They should be able to make use of the key ideas for effective teaching, and they also should be able to apply the different methods of teaching. Then they should develop the different teaching strategies based on the topic. They also should develop the best practices of online teaching and exhibit the qualities of a good lecture. What is the teaching process? The teaching process basically involves three entities. The first one is teacher, second one is message, and third one is taught. Taught means the learner. What is the role of teacher? A teacher, before he or she goes to the class, he should be well prepared. And he also should not have any communication barriers. What do you mean by well prepared? He should first prepare the content, then he should prepare the flow of content, and he should decide what activities should be involved in each content. How should he start the session? How should he end the session? And what are the activities to be conducted during the session? All these come under well preparedness. Then communication barriers. A good teacher must have a very good communication skill. Otherwise, Even if he has understood the concept, he will not be in a position to explain those concepts or to impart that knowledge effectively to the learners. So even if he has understood, even if he has enough knowledge, but he cannot impart that knowledge to the students unless he or she has a very good communication skill. Because the students cannot read the mind of teacher, what is there inside the mind of teacher, they cannot understand automatically. So unless and until the teacher explicitly imparts the knowledge to the participants. Coming to the second point, that is second entity, that is message. A message means it can be knowledge, it can be any principle, it can be idea, or it can be any concept that you want to impart to the learners. Well, now what should it contain? The message that you want to convey to the learners must be very clear, it should be accurate, it should be very brief, you should not elaborate simply unnecessarily, and it should be very specific to the concept or any topic that you want to teach. Unnecessarily, you should not get into another subject so that you will be diverting your topic. Then the third entity is what taught, that is means learner. Learner must be always sensitized and he must be receptive. What it means? Sensitized means whenever a teacher asks any question to the student after he or she teaches some concept, the student must be in a position to respond positively. That is called what sensitized. And what is receptive? Whenever a teacher explains any concept, the student must be receptive. He must be able to receive or he must be able to accept the new concepts explained by the teacher. Then he also should be in a position to apply them in real world. Well, now what are the key ideas for effective teaching? One is the be specific about what you are teaching. It means first decide what subject or what topic you want to teach. Before that, you should know that you must set the outcomes. What are the outcomes to be set? At the top level, we should know what are the program outcomes. And after that, you should know what are the outcomes of the course. So when you design a course, you must set the proper outcomes for the course that clearly indicates or the course outcome statements clearly indicate that what is expected from the learners at the end of the course. And the course in turn should be divided into topics and each topic should also have a specified outcomes. What is expected from the learners after he or she learns a particular topic. A topic in turn should be divided into lecture outcomes. It means finally it comes to each lecture outcomes. Suppose I choose a topic called X to be taught on a particular day. I should decide what should be the outcomes of that particular topic X. What do I expect from the learners after I teach the topic X? Well, the next is understand who you are teaching. It means you should know whether you are teaching for UG students or PG students or the research scholars, or even if you are teaching for the UG students, you check whether do they have any diploma background. For instance, you are teaching the subject called cloud computing for the PG students. Once you know that you are teaching for the PG students, your style of teaching should be different. And if you know that you are teaching only for the BE students and you know that they are learning that subject for the first time, your approach should be different. At the same time, if you are teaching cloud computing for the PG students, if they have already learned that subject in UG level, your style of teaching should be different because if they have already learned that concept theoretically in UG level, your approach should be what practical based. It should be project based. So you must keep giving only the assignments which are practical based or it should be project based. So your style of teaching is dependent on who you are teaching. Make clear links to the broader course. What does it mean? Assume that you are teaching a subject called Java programming language. In that, so you are teaching a concept called stack, and then you are explaining how to implement a stack in Java. So while explaining how to implement stack operations or stack itself in Java, you must be able to relate this concept to the broader course. We have a broader course called data structures in engineering. So you must be able to relate the topic which you are chosen for implementing in Java, that is stack operations, should be related with the broader course, that is data structures. You must tell clearly that in data structures we have learned this concept and these are the operations. This is how we represent the stack in data structures, and this is how we implement the operations, that is push and pop. When push is done, an element is inserted in the stack. When pop operation is done, an element is popped or removed from the stack. After you link to the broader course, then come back to the current course and then start explaining about how the particular stack operations must be implemented using Java programming language. Next, identify the best ways to teach the content. Once you select the content or the topic to be taught, you must be in a position to select what is the best method that suits the particular content, whether it should be cooperative or it should be brainstorming, or it should go for discussion, or it should go for blended learning, or it should be a flipped classroom, and so on. The choice is yours, but any method which you choose must suit properly to the content that you have chosen for teaching. Plan the teaching sessions in detail. Plan the teaching session in detail means, suppose you go to a restaurant for having lunch or dinner. What do? What are the components of lunch, or what are the components of dinner? A lunch or dinner will have three components basically. The first one is starter, second one is the main course, and third one is dessert. So you should keep three key things in mind. One is starter, the main course, and then the dessert. Why it is divided into three components? You cannot directly get into main course, or you cannot directly go to the dessert unless you have starter. So starters with respect to teaching are like telling what is the concept you want to teach today and what are the objectives of the concept that you have chosen and what do you expect from the learners at the end of the session. These are like starters. After having taught all these concepts at the beginning of the session, you get into the main course. That is what main content of the session. Explain all the concepts within the session, and also within the session you must also decide what are the activities to be conducted during the session. It can be brainstorming, it can be group discussion, it can be cooperative learning, or it can be budge groups, it can be flipped classroom, etc. So planning the teaching session is very, very important, including all the minute details. Then what is dessert with respect to, after having the main course, that is lunch, you get into dessert. That is what you will have, either juice or you will have ice cream. Like that, what is dessert with respect to teaching? With respect to teaching, after having taught all the concepts in the order in which you have decided, already planned, you need to summarize them. So summarizing with respect to teaching is equivalent to having dessert after having the main course in the lunch or dinner. So you need to summarize all the points which you are taught on that particular day. And if you, for summarizing also, you should use a method. You can either write the points which you are taught on that particular day on the board. That is one method, or you can use a flow chart, or you can use some Venn diagram, okay, to show what are the topics that you are taught on that particular day. Well, then communicate clearly to the students. What do you mean by this? Suppose, say, I have already told, your communication skills should be very good in order to impart the knowledge to the students. Otherwise, even if you have very good knowledge, you cannot communicate properly to the students, then your knowledge is not transferred to the students. You cannot impart knowledge to the students. It also indicates, communicate properly also indicates that you give your contact details to the students in case if they want to meet you during when you are unreachable. You must be able to reach by the students when you are unreachable. It means they should be able to contact either through WhatsApp or through your mobile or through email ID. Because if the students have any doubts, they should be able to contact you either through the WhatsApp also. So the students post any questions to you, you must be in a position to communicate with the students clearly with your proper response. And for proper response also you must set the response time. Okay, for this particular question I will take 10 minutes to give a response to you, or I need 1 day to give a response to you. Like this you must communicate explicitly and consistently to the students. Your communication should be always explicit and consistent. Well, let us look at what are the methods of teaching. First one is a lecture. What is a lecture? A lecture means the teacher just explains the concept to the students, or he just describes the concept. He picks up one topic and then explains what does it do, what are the contents of the topic, and so on. But students will not understand clearly only by lecture. It is only one-sided. It is called teacher-centered learning. Then what is interactive? Interactive means suppose you are teaching a subject called programming language. So C programming language. If you just go on explaining, it is like a lecture. It does not involve any interaction between teacher and students. So what should be done to that? Once you start writing the program, you write few steps to start with, then ask the students what are the next steps to be written. You make the groups within the class, you ask one group of students to tell what is the next step. Okay, so and you must build a proper interaction between teacher and students. This also builds a good relationship between students and teacher so that students will understand the teacher in a better manner. And you should also encourage all the students to participate in interactive session. Otherwise, some students will be sitting at the back. They'll be only watching what is being done in the class or what is going on in the class. This is for offline. And in case of online, some students will just join and then mute their mic and then go to do some other task. So to test such people, you can interact with them and then ask them question and then get the response from them. So that you will come to know whether the students are present mentally and physically, or they are just remaining absent by joining this session. Demonstration. When you are teaching a subject, demonstration is basically dependent on what kind of subject you are teaching. For instance, assume that you are an instructor, you want to teach some person how to learn car driving. Suppose you write a list of instructions and then tell these are the instructions which you should go through. Then by the end of reading these instructions, you will be able to learn how to drive the car. Is it enough? No, it is not enough. What you should do? You should go to the car, take the learner also, ask him to sit beside you. You also sit beside him. Tell what are the components of car, how do they interact with each other. Okay, and then how to start the car and how to increase the speed, how to decrease the speed, how to take the turn, and so on. So you must ask the learner to do the things practically. You must demonstrate how it should work or how it works and how he should learn driving. Then only the learner learns properly. Suppose you want to teach a logic design lab. If you just give a set of instructions to the student, he or she will not be able to understand. Instead, what you can do is you can take students to the lab. If it is offline, take students to the lab, then show the components to the students and then also show how the components should be connected with each other. Tell what are the inputs for that experiment, what are the outputs, and how to debug the errors in case if the students get any errors. If this is offline, if it is not offline, if it is online, the same process can be shot by a person separately. Then you play that video when it is online. So the students will be able to understand what are the components required for conducting experiments, how to connect the components, and then how to carry out the experiment. What are the inputs? How to conduct, how to give the inputs, and how to change the inputs, how to get the output. If he or she doesn't get the output, then he has to trace back the connections to understand that where is the error. So, and then if you are teaching a programming language, you should not just explain what is the program. You in turn first demonstrate how a program works. For example, if it is offline, you take the students to the lab. You execute the program, you give the inputs to the program, you get the output, and then you debug the errors. First show how the program works, then ask the students to do same thing. This is called demonstration. And if it is with respect to mathematics subject, what is demonstration? Demonstration in case of mathematics, he or she should not just explain what are the steps involved in that. He or she should not just show what are the steps. He in turn should write on the board and then tell how he arrived at a particular expression or arrive at a particular equation. How did he get that particular equation? He must solve and show how did he get at a particular equation. So this is called demonstration. Then budge groups. You divide the entire class into different groups or small groups. Then why this word budge is added? The budge is added because the students will mimic the noise of the people during discussion. And you cannot just like the form or divide the class into groups or subgroups. You must plan this activity properly while designing the session. So you should know what are the activities to be given to the students, how many groups you should have in a class, and how many activities should be given, what activities should be given to each group of students. Then you start asking them to do that role. This is called budge groups. Then brainstorming. How do you carry out a brainstorming session? To carry out this brainstorming session, you need to write a problem definition on the board. Okay, share the board and then write a topic on the board. Then say it is a problem definition given for development of a particular project. Then you divide your class into groups, several groups, around 4 to 5. Let each group have 4 to 5 students. And then give one task to each group, like for a project development, you will have requirements, then you will have budgeting, then you will have the components to be identified like that. You give one task to each group. For example, say you tell one group to identify what are the requirements to develop the project. So one group will be starting working on the requirements of the project. Let second group find what are the components required for that project. Then the third group finds what is the budgeting for that. Then the fifth one, let them decide what language to be used or how to implement that. Then another group decide how to design that. Okay, so these are the activities that you can have during the brainstorming, and then let each group present. Say suppose you are given one group the requirements. Let that group first discuss among themselves and then tell. Then as they go on telling, you need to list the ideas given by the requirements group on the board so that everybody will come to know what that particular group has done on that particular activity. Then you move on to the next group, that is what design. You ask them how do you design this particular project. Then you go on to the next one group and then ask what is the budgeting done by them. When as they go on giving the points, you write those points and then do not discourage any student who or she is involved in brainstorming session, because everybody wants to share their knowledge. Then analogy. What do you mean by analogy? When you choose a topic for teaching, you never teach topic directly. You never get into any topic directly. First give a real world example related to that particular topic, then explain the topic. For instance, suppose you are teaching a concept called multitasking. Then what is the best analogy that you can give? You know that your mother will be cooking two items on a stove. So one is rice and other one is sambar. She is a single person, but she will be attending two tasks. One is preparing rice and other one is sambar. But how does she do it? She will be first focusing on rice. Then after some amount of time, she will shift her focus to sambar. So she will keep shifting her focus from one item to another item. This is called multitasking. Then when it comes to multiprocessing, you need to have two separate persons, one for cooking rice and other one for cooking sambar, because it is multiprocessing. You need multiple processors, one for each item. So like this software having given a real world example, then get into the actual concept called multitasking. So what is multitasking with respect to operating system? There will be a single processor which will be performing multiple tasks based on the time sharing. So first it will take one task for execution. After it is executed for certain amount of time, the processor is switched over to another task. So it keeps shifting from one process to or another process based on time sharing. This is called multitasking with respect to operating system. Then what is multiprocessing with respect to operating system? You need to employ a separate processor for each task. For example, if you have two tasks given to a processor, If you have multiple processors, then assign one task to each processor. So two tasks will be done in parallel on different processors. So parallel word can be used only when you employ more than one processor, one for each task. Well, then role plays. Role plays is very, very important in teaching. You give a concept, identify what are the different roles that student can play, then fix each role to a student. For example, you identify a set of students, you also identify a set of roles, then you assign one role to each student. Okay, for example, say you have chosen X, Y, and Z as the different roles, and you have chosen ABC as the different students, or you have chosen Rajesh, Raman, and then Kavita as the students, and you have chosen roles, say administrator, principal, and faculty member and student. Suppose you want to play, you want to show how this organization works. So one person can act as vice chancellor, another person can act as director, and one person can act as a professor, another person can act as a student. How this interaction takes place between these people can be shown with respect to the role play. Okay, assign one role to each student and ask them to play it. The second topic, say you're talking about or you are explaining about call center. So call center involves the roles like customer and a call center personnel. You identify two best students and ask them to play this role. So one student can play the role of customer, another student can play the role of call center personnel. Then ask the customer to pose some questions to the customer personnel. Then customer personnel in turn should give solutions to the problems raised by the customer. This is called what role play. Then ICT based education. What is an ICT based education? I'll be explaining this in detail in the subsequent slides, and then let us look at what is differentiation, then flipped class, and also discussion. What is an ICT? ICT is a learner-centered learning. In a traditional method, we had teacher-centered learning where the teacher used to teach on the board and he used to write figures and images on the board. He used to take a lot of time for writing even a small image also on the board. But when ICT is introduced, it has become very easy for all the faculty members to show how the image look like. He or she need not have to draw from the scratch. So he can just show ready-made image, or he can just display it and then show it to the students that this is the circuit diagram, this is the image. Okay, so this saves large amount of time for a teacher, and he or she also can explain any complex instructions, because writing complex instructions on the board takes a large amount of time for any teacher. So if you use ICT based teaching, it saves a large amount of time and it will be very, very effective also. And ICT based teaching also establishes an interactive class or an interactive session between teacher and students, and also between a group of students. Interaction does not mean that interaction should involve only teacher and student. It should also involve the interaction between different groups of the students. And what is differentiation? This concept is very, very important. You must, once you get into a class or once you're assigned with a class, you should know what are the different types of learners you have come across, or different types of learners are there in the class. So some students may be from North India, they may not be able to understand the English itself, or some students may be from other countries which they will not be able to understand your language, or there may be different types of students like the fast learners, then average learners, and then poor learners. So once you assess the learners, you'll come to know what are their levels. So you can divide your class into three basic categories called fast learners, average learners, and poor learners. Well, how do these categories help you in teaching? Once you design your course content and once you list the assignments to be given to the students, you cannot give same set of assignments to all the students of your class, because you have classified your students or learners into three different categories. So you must decide which assignments must be given to the top students or the fast learners, which assignments should be given to the average learners, and which assignment should be given to the poor learners. Okay, and even when you want to ask the question in a class, you should know what kind of questions to be asked to the poor students and what kind of questions to be asked to the average learners and what kind of question to be asked for the fast learners. And while setting question paper also, you must have a strategy. That is 100, when you set a question paper, it is for 100%. Okay, you must keep in mind that at least 60% of the questions should be answered by poor performers, and then average learners. What should be the percentage for average learners? Say 80% of the question should be answered by average learners. Then coming to the fast learners, 100% questions must be answered by all the fast learners. So you must keep all these types of learners in mind, then design questions and also design assignments. When you come to know that there are three types of learners, only when you assess these students. How do you assess the students? It may be based on our IMRs, or it may be based on their performance in the previous semester, or it may be based on the performance at PU level if you are teaching for the first year students. Well, while designing the curriculum also, we should keep in mind that we get students from different backgrounds or different categories, that is slow learners, fast learners and average learners. So keeping in mind, you should design the curriculum. Curriculum cannot be designed only by keeping the fast learners in mind. Curriculum which we design should cater to all the categories of students. It means at least 60% of the curriculum should be learned by students and 80% of the curriculum should be learned by average learners and 100% curriculum should be learned by the fast learners. This is the way we should design the curriculum. Now, what is a flipped class? What was the traditional method of teaching? Earlier, we used to teach in class. Students used to come to the class and we used to teach in class. Even if it is online class, what we do, normally we take one concept and then teach or transfer that knowledge to the students. And what students used to do, they used to go to their home and then study what faculty has done in the class, then write the assignment, attend the quizzes, come back to the class and then report to the teacher. This is the what traditional method. But what is a flipped class? These activities are reversed in flipped class. What is being done in flipped class? The students, what they're supposed to do at home, they'll come to the class and they will do that. It means before they come to the class, they will learn what the concept, what is the concept, and how does it goes about. Okay, what are the components of the concept? So they'll learn the concept clearly at home. It means this task is supposed to be done by the faculty member in the class, but that is being done by the student in case of flipped class. So first he learns on his own at home, then he comes to the class. When he comes to the class, the activity which he is supposed to do at home, he will do in the class. That what is that? Assignment he will start writing in the classroom itself and he will attend the quizzes in the classroom itself. Okay, then after he goes to the home, again he will check whether what he has done in the class is right or wrong. So the traditional method is 100% or 50, that is what 180-degree phase shift of the traditional method. So I mean the flipped class is 180-degree phase shift of the traditional method. What is supposed to be done in class is done in home and what is supposed to be done at home is done in classroom itself. It can be either online class or offline class. It doesn't matter. So what is a discussion and how do you carry out this activity? This is very, very important. You cannot just ask the students to discuss on the topic or without any topic. But what is your role as a teacher? You must give first a problem. You write a problem definition on the board, divide the problem definition into several subtasks and then identify the student groups and give one subtask to each group. Let each group discuss on the task assigned to them, then let them arrive at a decision or conclusion, then let them present. So this is related to a project development. For example, say if you have a problem definition, write the problem definition on the board, then divide the problem into sub-problems and give one sub-problem to each group. Otherwise, say you have a set of modules, or you have say 10 modules in a project, and give one module to each student. That each student or each group can decide what are the requirements of that module, how to develop that module, what is the language required for developing that module, and so on. Well, let us come to the effective teaching strategies. What are the effective teaching strategies? One is the objectives and outcomes, then modeling, mistakes, students-led classroom, cooperative learning, experiential learning, graphic organizers, and feedback. These are some of the strategies which a faculty can employ either during online teaching or offline teaching. Let us look at these components one at a time. So once you choose a topic for teaching, you must set the clear objectives for the topic, and you also should set the expected outcomes from the learners at the end of the lecture. Now, what are the keywords that you can use in objectives? You can use the keywords like explain, demonstrate, describe, and discuss based on the topic. And outcomes, they should be able to apply the methods or the concepts that you teach in the class. They must be able to develop a new method, or they must be able to develop these strategies. They must be able to develop the knowledge of applying the concepts to the real world application, or they must be able to design a new circuit. So like this, the students must have the outcomes, the clear outcomes. Then modeling. What is a modeling? When you choose a concept for teaching, if you just explain what does it do or what it means, it is not just enough. You must show it practically. That is called what modeling. Okay, you never say that what to be done, but most of the people only say that what to be done. They will not tell how it should be done. Okay, so you conduct an experiment and show how a particular experiment should be carried out. So demonstration is very, very important. Modeling always refers to the demonstration, show how it works or how it should be carried out, how a program should be executed, how you should give the inputs, how you should give the outputs. If it is a particular machine, you show the machine and show what are the components of the machine and explain clearly how does that machine work, how should you start, how should you give the inputs, how should you change the parameters of that. Mistakes. What do you mean by committing mistakes? We as teachers will be very conscious during teaching. Oh, we should not do any mistake while delivering the lecture, because we are teachers. Students will be able to identify the mistakes. They will laugh at us. You forget all these things. We are all human beings. We commit mistakes. So you intentionally commit a mistake. Not unknowingly, you intentionally do a mistake. This is required very much in the class because you want to know or you want to get the attention of all the students towards the board, whether it is online teaching or offline teaching. If the students are discussing among themselves, this is the best method to drag the attention of all the students towards your teaching. You purposely write some text on the board and write it wrongly, then ask the students to fix the error in that. This method is best suitable for English teachers. What do? You ask the English teacher to write some passages on the board and let them write some statements wrongly. Okay, then ask the students immediately when a lecturer or when a faculty writes something wrongly on the board, students' attention will go towards that particular point and then clearly tells, ma'am, sir, you have written this statement wrongly. Then you tell that student or the students group to identify the errors, what is the error in that or what is the mistake in that, and let them fix that mistake or let them correct the mistake. Suppose you have written a statement wrongly. Let them identify what is wrong in that statement and ask them to correct that statement. You never discourage any student, even if they do not tell or even if they tell incorrectly, you do not discourage them. Tell them to fix the error properly. So mistakes must be done intentionally in order to get the attention of the students and also in order to create an interaction between you and students. What is a students-led classroom? A students-led classroom means you give a topic to a group of students and ask them to discuss about that and then ask them to present it. For example, say you want to develop a project. Divide that project into different modules and give one module to each set of students. Let each set of students come with ideas and let them present it, okay, in front of all the students. If it is offline, if it is online, through Microsoft Teams, or choose one of the technology to teach or to share with the other groups and then share that knowledge with the others. So it is called what students led classroom. It means students will be able to carry out all the tasks which are supposed to be carried out by the teacher. Cooperative learning, what it means? It is similar to the group discussion. It means you'll be giving some activity and assigning these activities, or identify set of activities and assign one activity to each group of students. And students will start discussing with each other and they will exchange their ideas. And each person in the group will have positive interdependence. What do you mean by positive interdependence? Positive interdependence, it means each person first gets a positive thought about other person. Then they will start sharing the knowledge. Then once they start sharing the knowledge, each individual person is also accountable in the cooperative learning. If he or she just keeps quiet in a group, it is not required to be part of the group. So everyone involved in the group must share their knowledge so that each individual person is accountable for that. Then promote interaction. It also, cooperative learning also promotes interaction because the students can interact with each other within the same group, or one group can interact with the other group of the students in the same class. This is for the sharing knowledge. What is conflict management? Conflict management means in a group, students will have different ideas. They will not converge at the decision or the conclusion. They cannot come to, sometimes they cannot come to the any conclusion. So in that case, there will be conflicts among the ideas. So they should be able to manage their conflicts and then come to the proper conclusion so that they can tell it to the teacher. This is our conclusion. Then group processing. Once they sort out or resolve all the conflicts, they will be able to manage the group. So these are the benefits of cooperative learning. Then what is experiential learning? As I already told, it is not enough if you just tell what is to be done. You demonstrate how an experiment should be carried out and ask the students to actually carry out the experiment. If, for example, if you carry out the experiment, you will understand better, but you ask the same thing to be done by the students will understand it better. This is how the experiment is to be carried out. You tell students, you take the students to the lab and ask them to identify the components and ask them to connect the components and ask them to give the inputs, then expect them to get the outputs and also ask them to change the inputs. And so once the student learns or does the experiment on his own, he will be able to understand the concept better. So this is called what experiential learning. It means unless he or she gets personal experience on a particular concept, he or she will be never able to learn the concept clearly. It is called what hands-on experience. Experiential learning indicates it is what hands-on experience. He or she should get the hands-on experience. Otherwise, they will not be able to understand any concept clearly. The graphic organizers. What do you mean by graphic organizers? Once you complete your teaching, you must be able to summarize the concepts which you are taught. To summarize the concepts, you can choose one of the methods. Either you can use a flowchart, write all the concepts in the order in which you have covered, or you can choose a Venn diagram. Okay, so choice is yours. And what is the advantage of this? The advantage is students will be able to organize the concepts that they have learned in the current session in a proper manner. They also can organize the concepts in a proper manner in their mind. Let us look at the qualities of a good lecture. The first one is address a single theme. Suppose, what is the meaning of this address a single theme? Assume that you have chosen a single concept for teaching, that is what stack operations. and for the current lecture. Once you choose the stack as the concept to be taught in the current lecture, assume that you are able to complete the topic in 30 minutes and you are left with another 20 to 25 minutes based on your class duration. But do not move to the next topic immediately, say Q. Assuming that you have enough time to complete that topic also, but never mix up more than one topic in the same lecture. You explain that concept clearly, ask the students to carry out some activities, and then ask whether students have understood clearly or not. You should ensure that the concept which you have taught is clearly understood by everybody in the class. Otherwise, you can repeat that particular lecture instead of moving to the next topic. So never mix up the topics on the same lecture. Then technical terms. If you come across any technical terms during teaching, you should be very careful that you should know the meaning of the technical terms. For instance, assuming that you are teaching a concept, in that you come across a technical term called cloud computing. Don't just tell what cloud computing, don't just pronounce the word cloud computing and then move to the next topic. You should tell what is the meaning of cloud computing. This is a new technical term for the students, so you should explain what is cloud computing, what are the types of clouding, and what are the types of computing that you can carry out on a cloud. How do you store information on the cloud? How do you retrieve the information from the cloud? And how do you provide the security for the data that is being stored on the cloud? Okay, so you must clearly explain the technical terms. Then fluency in technical content. Once you prepare the content for delivery, you must be fluent in that. It means if you are not able to explain any of the topics clearly, students will not understand and you will be in the trouble. Because if the students do not understand any concept clearly, they will ask you to re-explain that concept. To get a fluency in technical content, your communication skills should also be very good, because if you have understood the concept clearly, if you are not able to communicate it properly to the students, your lecture becomes waste. So a good communication skill always solves 50% of your teaching problems. Use illustrations in the teaching. This is one of the qualities of a good lecture. What do you mean by using illustrations in the teaching? Using illustrations means you should not just add only text in your slides. You must use images, you must use pictures, you must use videos, play the videos and show how that particular experiment works and how that program works, how to give the inputs, how to give the outputs. So use proper illustrations which suits your concept properly. Then build on existing knowledge. What does it mean? Build on existing knowledge means, suppose you are teaching a subject called C++, object oriented programming language. So what does it mean? So when you come to this C++, students would have already learned C programming knowledge. So when you are teaching the concepts of C++, you should know that you are building the knowledge of C++ based on the knowledge that they know about C programming knowledge. You should not start teaching C++ from the scratch. Instead, you should tell clearly that these are the concepts which you already learned in C, and I am going to add some more features to this C language concepts so that this is how C++ is different from C. So what is C++? C++ equal to C plus some OOP features. So OOP features are added to C, then it becomes what? C++. So it means you are building the OOPS concepts on procedure-oriented programming language features. Then only it becomes a building on existing knowledge. Suppose you are teaching Java programming language. In that you are teaching how to implement a stack. Before you tell how to implement a stack, you take them to the broader course called data structure, and then there you tell how they have learned the representation of the stack, what are the operations involved in the stack, that is push and pop, how these operations are carried out in this stack. Then you come back to the Java programming knowledge or programming language and then tell how to implement those operations. So you must build the current knowledge based on the existing knowledge. Then employ a variety of approaches. What do you mean by employing variety of approaches? It means once you choose a topic for teaching, you must know what are the different methods or what are the varieties of approaches that you should employ for teaching. What is the best method suitable, whether it suits discussion or it is a cooperative learning or flipped classroom, or it should be only interactive session and so on. You must be able to give analogies and examples, which I've already told how to give analogies based on the concept. You must first give the real world example, then teach what is the current topic. You should never get into the topic directly unless and until you give analogy, because the analyses are given only to make them understand, and do not give too many analogies. This is also very dangerous. If you go on giving the analogies to explain the concept, students will write only those analyses in examination. So you must be very careful that you do not give too many analogies. Give only one best analogy which suits that concept clearly, and then go for giving the examples. Then get into the main content. Then your lecture should never be too long. Your lecture should be always short, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. It should not exceed the time, because you know that the concentration of students do not last more than 15 minutes. This is a survey being done by all the scientists in the entire world. That is, a concentration of student will be lost after 10 to 15 minutes. So you should design, or you should plan your lecture in such a way that your lecture is not more than 10 to 15 minutes. Then what are the best practices? In this session, in this particular topic, I am going to show what are the explicit practices used only for online classes. The topics which I have taught so far are also applicable for online classes, but explicitly I am mentioning what are the concepts which you should know with respect to online classes. The first and the most important thing is what know the technology. What do you mean by knowing the technology? Suppose you want to choose Microsoft Teams for teaching the subject, particular subject. You should know that how does this Microsoft Teams work, how to install the software, how to share the PPTs, how to prepare the PPTs, how to upload the PPTs, or how to upload your notes, how to upload your assignments, and how students should download the notes, how should the students download the PPTs and so on, or how to download the assignments and how to upload the assignments by students. This is called what? Knowing the technology. Then expect the unexpected. What do you mean by this expect the unexpected? Most of the times we come across the unexpected things which we never expected. It means suddenly the technology fails. What should be done if the technology fails? Assume that you are given some links to the students to share the links and for downloading the assignments. If that link is not working properly, students will not be able to download your assignments and they will not be able to write the answers for your assignments. This is called what technology fail. And say today you uploaded your lecture notes or PPTs through some link, and then you share that link with the students, and students will go home, use that link, and they will try to download the notes or PPTs which you uploaded or the assignments which you uploaded. But if that link is not working properly, or if the files link is working but the files are not there, then this is called technology failure. This is called expect the unexpected. Then what should be done in this case? You must be always prepared for the worst cases in your teaching and also in the life. Then you must have always a backup plan or a second plan or a plan B for this kind of cases. What should be your backup plan? Suppose if the students are not able to upload their assignments through the given link or through the link shared by you, you must tell them clearly that how should they submit your assignments to you. You can give your email ID. Through your email ID, they can submit your mail or they can send to you through WhatsApp. Okay, so like this, you should have a backup plan for submitting the assignments by students. This is what expect the unexpected. Then think before writing. When a student poses a question in a forum, suppose a student writes, sir, I did not understand this concept. Can you please explain what does it mean? You must think before you write response to the students, because when a student poses a question, you must give a response to them. And you should know clearly that you are not responding to a single student who has asked the question. You should know that you are responding to the entire group of class. So when you write the response to the students, you must be very, very careful while responding to the students. Whatever you write, it can be interpreted properly by the students, or sometimes it can be misinterpreted by the students also. So before you write, you must write it clearly, and especially you should write, your language should be proper, your communication skills should be very good in order to convey the message to the students. Then clear expectations. You must set clearly what are the expectations or what are the outcomes that you expect from the students at the end of the lecture. This I already covered. Then strong presence. What do you mean by strong presence? Strong presence means we come across every day. That is, in WhatsApp group, some of the faculty members or some of the teachers will be always active. They will be always posting some messages. They will be always posting some videos to show that they are actively participating in the group, or to show that they are strongly present in the group. Same thing should happen between teacher and students in a group. That is, you keep posting the messages to the students. Let the students also respond to your messages. Not only this, at the beginning of the first lecture, what you can do is you can shoot a video. Okay, that should contain introduction to the teacher, the who is going to teach. You introduce yourself. Okay, I am so and so. My name is so and so. I am a professor in so and so college and so and so school. I am going to teach this particular topic to you. And what do I expect at the end of this particular subject? So you just shoot this and then post it to the students. Let the students understand who you are, which subject you are going to teach. Okay, so once you create a group, you share this video with the students. So when before the students come to the class, they will know that who you are, which subject you are going to teach, and what do you expect from the students, so that students will be mentally prepared. And whenever you want to interact with the students, use the videos or the video calls. Okay, so through video calls, you can interact with the students. Okay, to show that you are strongly present. You never send the messages instantly. You instead, to interact with the students, you use the videos, okay, or video calls. Then establish a sense of comfort. What do you mean by a sense of comfort, or how do you establish a sense of comfort? Students should never feel difficulty in attending your class, or students should never get irritated to attend your class, because when you ask some questions, or when you ask unnecessary questions to students, they may get irritated. You must create a comfortable session with the students. But how do you do it? As I told already, you can send a welcome video to the students so that they will understand you properly. Then you can also send some of your pictures. You can share some of your pictures which you had taken during when you were isolated from the social, or what you have done during social isolation. Suppose say you had gone for a trip recently and you had taken some pictures. They are the pictures which you had taken during your social isolation. So you can share such images or such pictures or such photos with your students, so that students will understand that you are very social. Okay, you are mingling with the students, okay, very freely. So you must reduce the gap between you and students so that they become comfortable with you. So you must create a comfortable zone with the students. Asynchronous discussion. What do you mean by asynchronous discussion? So today you have posted an assignment through a link, and students are not able to understand what is expected from you through that assignment. So students will ask a question to you. You need to have to instantly answer that. let the students come to the next class and then you discuss that assignment in front of all the students if it is offline. If it is online, when the students attend your online class, you can discuss that particular assignment in the class, in the online class itself, so that everybody comes to know that. So it is called asynchronous because today you have posted your assignment which was not understood by students today, and tomorrow you are going to clarify what you have expected from that particular assignment. This is called asynchronous. Then what do you mean by active leader and observer? When you start your class, you will be always an active leader because you always start a class as a manager. You have complete control over the class. That's why you are called manager of the class. And you are also called active leader because you are actively teaching. Only you are involved in the teaching, so you are active. And you are also called active leader because you need to set a new path. A leader is one who always sets a new path. He never follows the other paths or the paths which are set by others. So you must be an example for others. You must find a new way of establish the things in life. You must become a true leader. A true leader is always sets the new path. He never follows the existing paths. Well, as your session progresses, uh, you should hand over your responsibility to the students. What do you mean by that? You give one task and write it on the board and then ask the students to participate in that to solve that problem. As I already told, it refers to what group discussion. Active observer refers to what group discussion. You give one task, divide the task into subtasks and let each group discuss on one subtask. But when the subtasks are given to the students in a group and the students start interacting with each other, sometimes there may be conflicts among the students. They may not be able to arrive at some conclusion. They may start quarreling with each other. So you should not become just a passive observer. Just your job does not end when you give a task to the students and ask them to interact with each other or just let them have the group discussion. It is not like that. You must be an active observer. It means you also should have control over the group discussion. You should know where they have to stop. If they're getting into the arguments, if the different groups are getting into arguments, you should not be a passive observer. Okay, you should not just keep observing what is being done in the class. You must be an active observer. It means you should tell clearly that you must stop here. You are going in the wrong direction. Well, the next is what? Check content resources. So today you uploaded some resources like notes, PPTs, assignments through some link. Tomorrow those notes, links and PPTs will not be there at all. You need to check the resources consistently and continuously whether your notes and PPTs are there in the correct folder or not, whether they are in the correct place or not, whether the link is working or not, whether your files are moved from one server to another server or not. You know that on cloud or on server, whenever there is a load balancing is done, the files get moved from one server to another server. In that case, the files which are stored on one server may not be existing continuously on the same server. It might have been moved to another server. In that case, you cannot find your files on the same server, so that students will not be able to retrieve your resources. So it is your responsibility that you must check the resources continuously, whether they are available in the same link. Recently, it happened with our NAC work. That is, we had uploaded the lot of resources through the links given by a coordinator, and on some day those links were not working because the links were disabled. Okay, or the files were deleted by some other department faculty members. So this happens continuously. This is a continuous process. It is our responsibility to ensure that all the resources are present in the given through the given link or accessible through the given link. Then feedback. Feedback is very important for any faculty member, be it offline or be it online. So why it is important? This is important from 2 points. One is from the teacher point of view and other one is from the student's point of view. How does it help from the student point of view? You will come to know that what is the level of students. You will be able to classify the students into different categories like fast learners, average learners and poor learners. Then how does it help the faculty member? If the faculty member has not taught any topic properly, or if he has not covered the topics in the order in which he or she is supposed to explain them, so he will come to know what is the order in which he was supposed to teach, or whether he was fast, whether he was slow, whether he was audible or not. So all these will help him in improving that lecture in the next session, so that he can use a better strategy for his teaching in the next class, so that students will be benefited. Then what are the tips for online class presentation? I have some tips for the online class presentation. What are those tips? Prepare the content and define the flow of content. So you decide what is the content to be taught, and also decide what is the order in which you want to teach. That is what flow of content. Then divide the topics into lectures. Suppose say you have one topic, a topic may not be covered in one lecture, you may require 2 lectures. So you should divide the topics into lectures, and each lecture should not be more than 30 minutes. And each lecture can in turn be divided into 2 sessions of 15 minutes each, because you know that the concentration of the students will not be lost for more than 15 minutes. So your session should not go beyond 15 minutes. A lecture can have 30 minutes, but the session in each lecture should not be more than 15 minutes. Then your lecture should be with proper objectives. You should have proper outcomes, and course content should be properly planned, and you also should plan what is the assessment method you want to use. There are different types of assessment methods, and that will be covered by a different resource person. I am not going to touch what is assessment. And avoid too much of text and in your slides. For example, say you have a slide, and that if you place 90% of the text or 100% of the slide is filled with only text, students will not be able to understand, or they will not be able to focus on the text. So what you can do is, to get their attention, you add images if possible. Wherever it's possible, you add the images to get the attention of the students towards your teaching. Then you must plan your teaching sessions, even whether it is a 15 minutes session or 20 minutes session or 30 minutes session. You must plan your session carefully, including all the minute details like what activities you want to conduct during that session, whether it should be only lecture, whether you want to involve brainstorming, whether you want to involve the students in brainstorming, or you want to give some activity through group discussion, or it should be a flipped classroom. It means you want to ask the students only to write the assignments, and you want to conduct quiz and let the students learn the content at the home itself. So you must decide all the activities to be conducted during that 15-minute session or 30-minute session clearly. So your planning should be proper. Then communicate clearly to the students. It means what? You should clearly tell, see, I have uploaded these notes and assignments at this place. This is the link to be used for downloading or uploading the resources, so that the students will be able to go to that particular link and then download and then upload the assignments. In the worst case, you also can give your WhatsApp number. You also can give your email ID so that students can reach you. A sample template for online class. That is, it should be begin with a recap of the previous class, then write the title of the current class topic, then write the objectives and outcomes, then content delivery should be there, then there is the activities involved in the lecture or session like quiz or group discussion, flipped class, interactive, and so on. Then at the end, you summarize all the points which you had covered during that particular class or lecture. Then we have come to the end of the session, and before I end the session, I would like to summarize the points which I have covered in this particular lecture. So I started with introducing what is the meaning of the teaching, and then I explained about what are the objectives and outcomes of the teaching. Then teaching process we discussed. I also explained what are the different key ideas. Then I also discussed some of the different methods used for teaching. I also described the effective teaching strategies. I also gave information about the qualities of a good lecture and also gave the information about the best online teaching practices to be practiced by a good faculty or a good teacher. Then I have a delivery of lecture, that is lecture components. It means how do you divide your lecture into different components? Suppose say your lecture is for 60 minutes. 60 minutes of lecture can be divided into so many components. So what should be the first component? The first component should be what? Bridging the gap between the current class and the last class. Suppose say you have taught some topics in the last class, and before you start the current class topic, you must be able to bridge the gap or just bridge the gap between the today's class and the last class, so that students will be able to understand how the current class is related to the previous class. Then session 1, your session 1 begins, which will last for 15 minutes. After completion of 15 minutes session, you go to the next session called what? The most important session, the brainstorming or discussion. You conduct a brainstorming session or discussion on the topic which you have covered in the session 1. Well, let it last for 5 minutes. After this, you conduct session 2, that is, you deliver the content for another 15 minutes. Then after completion of the session 2, again you involve the students in brainstorming and discussion about the topic which you taught in session 2. After completion of this brainstorming session on session 2, you conduct a quiz on the topics covered in both the sessions. This can be last for 10 minutes. So this is called what? Continuous assessment. Instead of assessing the students at the end of a particular unit or during IA1, you need to assess them continuously. This is called what? Continuous assessment. Teach topic for 15 minutes and then assess them to check whether they have understood the topic properly or not. Otherwise, you can correct yourself. So this is the end of my session. Thank you very much.
Shalini ma'am, do you want to speak anything?
No, sir. Thank you. Shall we move to next session, sir, then?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.